My name is Casey Pleasance. Today is December 13th, 2020, and I'm going to be sharing with you my interpersonal communication plan. The purpose of this plan is to show that I am committed to using the knowledge I gained from the Studies of Interpersonal Communication course at Liberty University. I will use this knowledge to continue to become a more effective interpersonal communicator as I progress forward in my Human Services Counseling Master's Program. Quite literally, interpersonal communication is the verbal and non-verbal exchanging of messages from person to person. In this presentation, the concept of interpersonal communication goes beyond exchanging messages to include relating to one another as human beings around the world in the context of relationships, families, and organizations, which Kathleen Vertino includes in her definition of the phrase in her 2014 article. In this presentation of my interpersonal communication plan, I will briefly describe my background, my behavioral blend, and the communication barriers that have significantly impacted my interpersonal communication. Next, I will introduce and explain the goal that I plan to achieve by putting the plan into practice, the strategies that will help me get there, and how I will implement them. Then I will describe the specific steps I'll take toward reaching my goal, how I will evaluate my progress, and how I will hold myself accountable. I'll start with a little bit about my background. I was born, raised, and now live in Maryland in the United States with my husband, and we are expecting our first child this spring. I have a bachelor's degree in early childhood education, and prior to this year, I taught first grade for 2 years. I'm currently a nanny for an infant, and I'm working toward my master's degree in human services counseling with a specialization in marriage and family studies, though I'm not sure which career path I will take following my graduation. Given my credentials and experience, I will be well suited for a career in human services, education, or childcare. In fact, Anne Grieve found in her 2010 research on teacher excellence that interpersonal skills are highly valuable for teachers and should be emphasized in teacher development programs. I believe that the knowledge and skills that I will gain throughout my master's program would be highly beneficial in any of my potential career options. Mel's Carbonell, the founder of Uniquely You, shared information about the 4-temperament or DISC model of human behavior in his 2008 book titled How to Solve the Personality Puzzle. The Uniquely You DISC personality assessment allows those who take the assessment a glimpse into their personality type based on their scores in 4 areas of temperament. The Uniquely You DISC assessment profile identifies each assessment taker's personality from 2 perspectives. Graph 1 identifies personality from the perspective of "this is expected of me," which shows masked and guarded behavior. Graph 2 identifies personality from the perspective of "this is me," which shows more casual and open behavior. The results of my Uniquely You personality assessment identify my behavioral blend in Graph 1 as a C-type or a cautious competent type, and in Graph 2 as a CS-type or competent specialist. As a cautious competent type on Graph 1, I am passive and task-oriented. My Uniquely You profile states that I'm cautious and calculating, and that I think people like things to be right the first time. I find accuracy and quality to be highly important, as well as compliance. My personality profile suggests that I care more about fixing things than I care about relationships, and that people tend to find me hard to get to know. As a competent specialist on Graph 2, I am passive, task-oriented, and people-oriented. My Uniquely You profile states that I make a great friend and a loyal listener, while at the same time I should seek more relationships. It also includes that I don't like being in control, and I often wait for people to tell me what to do. Uniquely You suggests that the low S on Graph 1 and high S on Graph 2 indicates that I feel people don't want me to be as sensitive outwardly as I really am inwardly. My behavioral blend reveals both positive and negative aspects of my personality in each Graph 1 and Graph 2. I believe that it is my responsibility to make up for the deficits within my behavioral blend and that being aware of the negative aspects highlighted by my behavioral blend helps me understand the specific areas in which I need to improve. There are 4 communication barriers that I believe impact my interpersonal communication most significantly. The first is distractedness and attempts to multitask, which means that I'm not giving full attention to the person that I'm with. The second communication barrier that I've found to impact my personal communication is a lack of transparency, as I'm often fearful of sharing my thoughts and feelings with those in my life. This contributes to the third communication barrier, which is disconnected or shallow conversations. When I use poor listening and talking skills, the conversations that I participate in remain disconnected or shallow. As Peterson stated in his 2015 text, in these kinds of conversations, both people talked and neither listened nor cared what the other was trying to say. Finally, my communication is hindered by pride. Connecting back to my behavioral blend, I like to be right and I don't like to admit when I'm not right. Thankfully, according to Peterson, recognizing communication barriers gives us the opportunity to shift into effective listening and relationship-building communication. The goal of my interpersonal communication plan is to provide a space for adults and children to feel heard, listened to, and understood while maintaining boundaries and communicating my own needs effectively so that fulfilling interpersonal relationships are formed and nurtured. My strategies for reaching this goal include improving my listening and reflecting skills as well as my talking skills. I would like to implement these strategies in all aspects of my life, personal and professional. I'm going to break my goal into 4 parts to explain my plans to implement the interpersonal communication plan and overcome my communication barriers. The first part is to provide a space for adults and children to feel heard, listened to, and understood. In order to do this, I would like to embody 4 characteristics: humility, which Schultz and Budzinski emphasize in their 2015 text, as well as empathy, warmth, and genuineness, all of which France and Weichel define as important qualities of human services workers in their 2020 text. While I think that my interpersonal communication skills have improved significantly as a result of implementing some of the strategies suggested by Peterson, France and Weichel, and Schultz and Budzinski in their respective texts, there are some areas in which my listening skills need work. This is particularly in heavier situations in which the talker is experiencing strong, uncomfortable emotions, has experienced loss, or is potentially in harm's way. I will practice single tasking or giving my full attention to the conversation. I will remind myself that talking isn't listening and put teeth marks in my tongue if I need to. And finally, I would like to be able to role play counseling scenarios. I expect that in my subsequent class on counseling children and adolescents, I will be able to implement that strategy that France and Weichel so strongly suggest in their 2020 text. In the meantime, I will continue responding to hypothetical counseling scenarios as described in their book. The next part of my goal includes that I will maintain boundaries. This is to protect myself from certain talkers who Peterson described in his 2015 text as problem people. Peterson recommends advocating for oneself when a talker becomes disrespectful. At the same time, I think it's important that I communicate my own needs effectively. This means being more transparent and allowing myself to be vulnerable, while also reminding myself to take ownership of my communication or speaking in a way that indicates that the thoughts and feelings I'm sharing are my own, as described by Peterson in his 2015 text. Additionally, I cannot blame others for my thoughts or feelings. By maintaining EHJ balance or appropriately using emotion, thought, and judgment as I speak, as described by Peterson in his 2015 text, I am, as Peterson wrote, giving myself the best chance to be heard. The last part of my goal is to form and nurture fulfilling interpersonal relationships within all parts of my life. The information I've learned in this course has helped me understand why I've had so few flourishing friendships, but it has given me hope that I will experience them if I put in the work I described previously. Throughout this plan, I will evaluate my progress and keep myself accountable by using self-evaluation, peer evaluation in future classes and assignments, and by asking those who are close to me to help me evaluate my progress as well. Throughout this presentation, I've explained my interpersonal communication plan. I'm thankful for the grace of the Holy Spirit that I continue to receive as I work toward improving my interpersonal communication. I hope that by implementing this plan, I'm able to meet my goal and reap the benefits of the hard work. Matthew 5:16 says, "Let your light shine before others, and they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." Perhaps through my improved communication and deepened relationships, I will be able to be a brighter light to Christ. Thank you for watching.